There we go. All right. So we are here talking about content mapping. When I talk about content, I'm talking about any form of communication, emails, programs, um, books, speeches, videos, any kind of content that you're going to be creating, and looking at how do you align what you're creating with the rhythm of life and the rhythm of the seasons. Um, so really monthly talking points, and topics and this whole system. It's something that I know the first time that I drew it up, I actually had these like um, crayons for bathroom, like kids' crayons. And I was using them to like create this whole map while I was in the shower one day. And the first time that I used the system, I created a 100-page outline of everything that I needed to share, and would really help others. And it turned into a workbook called Books That Sell You, and a second workbook called Stories That Change the World, and a couple of online programs, of a bunch of copywriting as well as book writing that I've been doing for years. So you'll see, like, even this document says copyright 2018 because not much has changed in what I'm teaching. It's something that I've used with all of my high-end clients, and it's something that I put myself through and created some magic with, and then decided that I needed to offer as a freebie once a year, every year. So I've never charged for this program. It's always just been an open session, and that's why we're here today. Um, so who's yammering at you is Steph Ritz. So I work with people around the world, as seen by people coming from around the world to tonight's call. um, and I take what you're saying and I turn it into what you meant to say. Really just helping you to voice your passions with stories that change the world. Because what we do and the actions we take and the intentions that we set all really do change the world. They change the path that we're moving and the people around us as well. And so a huge part of tonight is looking at what are you advocating for as we talk about what is that change that you really want to see. So we're going to look at a calendar and we're going to look at some advocacy stuff. So turning your dreams into reality. I've watched my clients go from 100 people to 200,000 on their own online radio program, copywriting for $1 million funnels, and writing quality books with global leaders. I started by being flown across the country and then eventually across the world to help people with their books. But I've been teaching on Zooms for a long time because it allows me to reach so many amazing people. One of those people is Debbie Howard. Debbie has written at the time, 2018, she had just done her first book she chose the Ritz Books as the name for the imprint for my publishing company. And The Caregiving Journey was the first book that I co-published with another publisher. And so she hit her #1 category in that book in a couple of different categories eventually, and then got invited to do a TEDx in Tokyo and built her own website. And then after that, she ended up doing a second book with me. The first book more aimed at the people who are caregivers, the other book aimed at corporations to support their caregivers, because she comes from a corporate world. Um, so um, all I'm asking is that you start before you're ready, because I mean, I see Oyabeme smiling because she wrote this testimonial. She's like, I didn't know why, I didn't know what I was going to write, but I just trusted the process. I started before I was ready, and I ended up with this amazing chapter in The Seed of Pure Potential, and then is now writing in a Sacred Lightworker book. So you got to start before you're ready. And that really does start with planning what's going to happen. So we're going to start looking at it as an each quarter and then break it down into monthlies. Rosa, last year I created a calendar and I flipped all the dates and I gave it to you guys. I'm not sure if you still have it, but I wasn't able to find it before class, but we're looking at this backwards for you. So we're just about to enter winter with winter solstice coming up here, which takes us deep into the earth and following our North Star for the next few months. And then into spring, which is air and the pale dawn, summer, the heat and the fire. Surprise, surprise, we did retreat in summer because everyone was fired up and excited, and we did the book party. And then you get into autumn and this water and blue hour and this whole reflection time. And so that's how I look at the seasons. I've always planned by looking at what season am I in. And so coming out of water and into earth seems like such a good time to be giving. And then it happens to work with the holiday season too. And then each monthly topic has all these different diverse talking points that you can choose. And so I just put a few sentence starters like how to do X, Y, or Z, or what tools would you share, or resources, or what are your different challenges or resolutions. TRA, I look at this list and I see all 7 of these are perfectly addressed inside of the book that you have right now. Like you've hit every single one of these points already, which is why when I looked at it, I said it seems like it's really good and it's moving forward. You're like, there's so much more I want to put in. I'm like, that's cool, but at least you hit all the points already, right? Um, so this winter solstice to vernal equinox, this mid-December to mid-March, and I break them down into just a focus word for each month. So when I'm planning it out. So when I look at January, February, March, develop, start, grow. For many years, I always taught my copywriting class during this window of developing and starting and growing, because even if you had a website, you could always reimagine the words or how you wanted to refocus those, and so that was copywriting for me. In spring, for the last few years has been when the one-on-one mastermind begins to write your solo book, because it is such a great time to step into systems and communication and implementation as the start of this book writing sequence. It gives you this chance to say, okay, while I'm figuring out exactly what I want to say, let me put some systems in place, figure out what it is I actually need to communicate, and start implementing this writing process that I'm going to commit to for many more months to come. And so that's naturally for me why that program starts in spring. In summer, we're talking about conversion, challenges, productivity, and focus. Again, there's a lot of heat and fire behind things. And in summer, people are active. And so it just gives us a chance to have more opportunity. So, like this summer, I've never offered a free in-person event before. And I said, let's do it. Let's celebrate the authors. Of course, I'll do the paid retreat, but I'm going to do a free retreat because, and who converted? Oya Bime. And she brought her daughter and she brought a friend, and other people came. And it was just so wonderful to gather, to really, I'd never, I mean, publishing for 5 years, and I'd never offered a Ritz book gathering before. And so there was some conversion and challenge both for myself as well as the people involved. And then where we're just stepping out of is this team leadership, service and retention, and procedures, stepping out of, stepping into, which for me is everything's due usually in this quarter. Is let's wrap it up. Let's figure out what you're leading. Let's be of service. What have you retained? Here we are writing summaries. And then in December, we're back into procedures and preparing for next year. I'm very predictable. This is my brain on this is like, yeah, my brain on templates So it's not like I learned this anywhere. It's just literally how my brain looks at life. And the first time I tried to explain this to another person and taught it to a friend, she had an it was a Mormon friend, and she invited me out to have Christmas with, like, I don't know, there were like 15 adults and 30 children in this giant mountain house in Utah. It was one of the coolest Christmases that I've ever been to. I mean, they put on their own little Christmas concert. There were so many of them. It was really great. Um, and when I taught her this, she was just mind boggling. She's like, "Your brain does what?" And I do it with clients all the time where I'm like, okay, well, if you're looking at this date, then let's go back 3 and go back 4. And these are all your deadlines. What did you do then? I don't know, because this is how my brain works. Um, so there is beauty in structure, and giving you the structure makes it a little bit more beautiful for you to hop, skip, and backwards jump through what you want to do. So here is how I look at a year. It's always in this round circular version of what are we doing and how do we want to proceed, or what are the expectations. So today I sent out an email to the current collaboration writers. There's 3 collaboration books being written, and I decided to push the deadlines from December 31st to January 22nd to give, because half of the group has decided in this process of writing to write more pages than they originally committed to. About half of the group decided 11 pages wasn't enough to write in a book with a sacred title, and they've chosen to write more and more and more, or have been asked to write more depending on the situation. And so I want to make sure that they get some extra time to write and edit and make it something better, not just a first draft being turned in. So January, the drafts are due, which for me kicks off a 3-month publishing deadline. So that means in February, they'll get their book at least once, if not twice, to be able to proofread, to like look for those final errors. So they give everything to me, and I do my magic and turn it into the innards of a book, the actual manuscript. And then I give it back to the authors to proofread and to find all their mistakes, and to give to the other authors and say, find all my mistakes for me, and then go fix them and resubmit the chapter that's going to print. And then depending on how many changes, I sometimes do one whole more round of that, where I say, okay, go proof it again because there's more in there. And then, but in that time, I'm also getting the paper copies and checking the covers and looking to see, that everything's perfect. And sometimes it takes a month, sometimes it takes a month and a half. And then by the time that we're ready to go to print, part of it depends. Do we need to print 2 versions of the cover, or how many pages changed, or and so if that book is all due January 22, then hopefully by, I guess, Easter, so by mid-April, we'd have the sacred books in hand. And what happened with the seed series is that we did all this prep work ahead of time that it only took 2 months to go through the publishing process. And so we still might, even with this extension, the original goal was to have a book in hand by March, and we still might, depending on how it all goes. The big difference with the seed series is the cover had been designed before the book started. The sacred series, the covers are being designed after, and that's a big, big part of that publishing time. So, Tiare, you're having someone else design your cover. That means that it might only take 2 months to get through the process, or that gives you a couple extra weeks to say, hey, you can order a maximum of 5 proofs at a time. So you could get 5 copies of your book and say, here's one for my husband, here's one for Angela, here's one for me, and just like literally hand it out to 5 people, give them a couple of weeks to read it, and, build yourself a little extra time because you have someone else doing your cover. That cover's all set and designed, which is pretty cool. Do you guys have something that you So Rosa, you've just submitted in December, right? Or the end of November, but pretty much December, January. So maybe by the end of this year, but most likely the first week of January, you'll no, you'll have a copy for sure before the end of the year. It's still early in the month. Think we said maybe by solstice, but it might be end of year. So sometime in December, you'll get to see your book for the first time and then be like, oh my gosh, there's 5 billion errors. Because, oh no, this paragraph, there's one word hanging on the next page. Okay, so what words can I edit out of this to just make it one little word shorter, right? All these little things to play with. But that's where there's time, and there's 3 rounds of let's meet and fix and meet and fix and meet and fix. And um, so you are hoping to have a book by February, but my guess is probably March, somewhere in that window as well, which is really exciting. I'm guessing your book is probably going to be the first off. I just sent one out for proof. So there's a book on creativity coming out sometime between now and your book, Rosa. And then I think your book is going to end up coming out before the Sacred series. And then the Sacred series will launch after that. And Jenny's trying to buy as much time as possible. So that's where I'm like, she's ready, but she's got more website building stuff to do. And I'm right. If I've got the space and time to make it happen, I'll give her that space too, you know. Um, oh yeah, are you um like you and I talked about coming to Kentucky in September, right?
Hmm.
Um, so in order and that's the Great Mother celebration is open to everyone,
Hmm.
correct? And
Yes.
it's a couple $100.
Yeah.
I think last time
It,
it was like three something.
yeah, it depends on the venue and what's on the agenda, but yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
just too
reasonably
soon to
priced.
know. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so I mean, but that's where we're back in December, 9 months away, setting these dates because it just takes time to get the entire process planned out.
Right.
I'm already looking at flights because right now, when I look at flights to Lexington, Kentucky, for the dates, September 13 or something like that, it's $300 less than it was when I looked last year. So you better believe that as soon as I have those dates, I'm going to go buy my ticket. I'll figure out the whole rest of the stay, everything else later. But that's the difference of flying out from my where I live versus having to drive 4 hours to a big airport to, yeah.
Get your
So
point.
so I'm super excited. I mean, I live in the middle of the redwoods, in the middle of nowhere, and I love living in these giant trees. But the payoff is that I live in the middle of nowhere. So, yeah, yeah. Tiara, you have more time, right? You're in a 6 month extension. So December, January, February, March, April, May. And then June, July, August would be your publishing window of getting all of those pieces laid out. Is that about right? Am I off a month? Oh, can you unmute yourself, Terry?
You would know more so than me on the dates. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So 6 months gives you time to develop everything. And then the questions, do you want extra time with your book looking in book format or extra time working in the version that we're in and writing? And you
Probably
had
right.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, so that means that so December, January, February, March, April would be your writing window. And by May 1st, you need to have that line editing in progress. So by the end of the month, you have the edits input it into the manuscript.
Got it. Wait, end of which month?
April
April.
is, so your manuscript would be due end of May.
In April, I would be like getting it final edited.
Yeah, the proofreader looking for missing commas or misspelled words, those little things. Yeah. Which means that you probably really want to have a goal of having it done in March. Like done in March. So then once you think you're done, you can listen to your entire manuscript and like go through it, like take a break and come right back to it. Rosa, what was your process when you got to the end there? I know I got a bunch of frantic emails from both you and Jenny being like, it's submitted, it's done. No, wait, and it's not. There's more stuff.
Uh, yeah, look, my I was aiming to have it done the like a month before so that I could have time to edit, but um it just it just wouldn't come together, and instead of having that time to edit, I ended up having to create more content or to change the content around. Um, and then it was a mad flurry right at the end to do the editing. And then, thankfully you emailed me and said, "Oh, take a couple of extra days." And it was so good that you did that, because I then just left the book, just left the manuscript for a day or two to just allow my brain to just stop with the panic. And then I went through it again with a fine-tooth comb and then submitted it to you a couple of days later. And then having submitted it, I then had time for it to just land for me. And that's why I came back to you and said, "Oh, look, I think you, it's like, I mean, I'm getting goosies as I'm saying it. It's like I went through this whole huge process of trying to figure out what this book was going to be about for to start with, and then how it was actually going to sit. What was it that I was actually going to deliver in this book? Um, and it just took a lot longer than I anticipated. I thought, oh yeah, that'll be fine. I'll just be able to bang it together and it'll just flow. No, it just didn't flow. Sometimes it just didn't flow. Other times it was like, oh, this is like really good. This paragraph is like right on the money. And other times it just took so much longer. It took, several goes. So it was just, I don't know, it was very different to doing the chapter. The chapter was a great introduction to it, and it gave me, I think, the confidence to then be able to tackle the book. But they're almost very different processes, and I think because the content was very different. So the chapter was more about me talking about my experiences. So it was really tapping into the emotion of, getting past the emotion of it to actually get to what the story was, and to give the reader a sense of it's okay, it will be fine. Whatever your journey is, you'll be okay at the end of it. While this was more about, okay, well, what am I actually delivering to people? How am I going to help them? What is the services that I'm going to be providing? All of that stuff in it. So it was a massive, massive change. Sorry, that was probably a lot longer response than what you were looking for. So I'll just mute myself now.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you talking about the journey and the process, because writing a chapter in a book is different than writing your whole book. And Rosa, I mean, the goal that I set is to write 88 pages in 6 months. Very
Yeah.
doable to write something of high quality of that many pages. Rosa, I think, wrote probably close to 500 pages and has
Probably
cited which 150 of
pages.
those to keep over that. Like, she created her entire business, all of her business offers, like kind of
Oh, I
like when
don't
I sat
know.
down and had this 100-page outline come flying out at me. And And Rosa's had that over the last few months. So there's been a huge, and then, talking about those people in our ears that support us or make
Yeah.
us question ourselves, or even when it's our own inner voice telling us
Yeah,
something that we don't want to
100%.
hear. And there's been this whole process of overcoming that and moving
Yep.
forward. And that's
Yep.
something that I've seen in most people. So this
Yep.
is the same calendar with the, oops, right? December, January, February. And then if you put those words into the calendar, there's that version as well. And there's things here like we are mapping out content right now in December. Typically, I teach this writing that converts in January. June, I had been going to an event called Sitar, which is a yoga therapy event. And June is on my calendar this year because the yoga therapy group is doing one of the sacred books. And so I need to make sure or aim to go to that event with Nicole, and Eileen, I think, is on the call as well, and go meet everyone, and celebrate this book that was out. And then in the past, I did a bunch of website building in September. It happens naturally every year that somewhere in September or November, October, November. This year I had 5 different people freak out about what they needed, or something happened to their websites and they needed all sorts of emergency help. So I've got it on my calendar because I just predict that something's going to happen at the end of summer before Christmas, and I need to have that time available to help people with their website rebuilds. Typically I was doing my retreats August, September, but it's going to be the Great Mother Celebration. So since I'm attending 2 events for 2 of the sacred books, I don't know if I'm going to do my own event this year. I know there's also chatter about going maybe to Hawaii or maybe to Australia, or I don't know. But right now, just having 2 events on my calendar seems like plenty. But a lot of that is just the talking points, these like what you're trying to create, or different things that you're looking at. A couple of talking points so the first time I wrote a chapter with a group of entrepreneurs, it was in a book called Pioneering the Path to Prosperity. And then I coached the publisher through the bestseller process and the marketing process, and how to get all sorts of things. And so some of the topics that I talk about inside of my chapter is this concept of perpetual prospecting. If you look at the world as it's full of gems, you will find gems, right? What are you actually looking for out there? Is something I hear all the time. How do you pull all of these amazing people into this group that are all like-minded and all so different? I'm like, perpetual prospecting. I'm just out there looking for those gems, looking for the gold of all these, people who are very, very heart-based, and you bring them together. Um, Enrollment calls, a taste of value, bandwidth budgeting. So like, what do you have time for? How much can you actually take on? As well as then how do you advocate for yourself? And we are going to look at advocacy now, which I look at as a sequence of words. So awareness, desire, vision, ownership, challenge, acknowledgement, community, and you. Now, let me explain what that means. So for each one of these, I have a question. This is really like when we talk about being heart-based and dropping into what do you really want to see in this world? How do you want things to be different? I also think about how I turned on the radio. I was on the way to visit a friend after a very successful surgery, and I turned on the radio on the way to see her this morning, and they're talking about um, uh, racism, and someone tried to burn down Martin Luther King's house and got caught after they had already gassed the front porch but didn't light it on fire. And a college university that refused to say that it was okay or not okay for genocide of Jews. Like, would that be okay? Do we have freedom of speech to talk about this? And the college was like, well, I don't know. And they let it go on. And now it's in court because they might not have played that correctly to think that it was freedom of speech to call for the genocide of Jews. And it breaks my heart that this is what's on the news every day and this is what's happening in our world. And I can't believe we're here. And so it's the type of thing that drops me right into what am I going to do about it? That is the problem. We need to see this change because it's every human's right. It's just something's really wrong with society. And what do I want to see instead is acceptance. And what can I personally do to be the change that I want to see? Is I think a big part of why I've dedicated so much time to diversity and awareness and acceptance in the work that I do, as well as bringing all these different cultures and ideas to everyone else around the world. And it's relevant because it affects a lot of you directly and indirectly. And I want all of you to also show that acceptance, that diversity, that awareness in the work that you're doing. And I really, truly hope that I am modeling all that I wish to show. So that was me and my today advocacy line of what was happening in. These are questions that I come to usually for every single project that I launch. So before I launch a collaboration or a course or a program, I sit down and think, what are we advocating for? So the Sacred series is advocating for something very different, though very similar to the Seed series. And there has been a noticeable difference in the way that we've all come together as a community because of it. What are you guys advocating for?
No, this is, I'm going to say this is very interesting because I'm seeing this probably for the third time, because I think you went through it again when we started this series. But anyway, I can see how you use this as we were writing our chapters. I can see this clearly now. And I'll tell you what's brilliant about it is because we don't, I think, when we think about our work, or like when I was writing, I didn't think about it in that way. And even as I'm developing this particular chapter and I'm looking at the energy in the workplace, how do I tie in? Because the book is with the Institute. And really, I totally did not write anything about the Institute in the chapter, right? And so I can see now why it's important, not only because this chapter is supporting the Institute, but because the reason I have this framework now in terms of evaluating what I think is good and bad leadership is because of the leadership I saw with E and Baba. And I totally didn't say that in the story at all. And that's what I'm trying to draft as the opening, to lay the foundation for my particular chapter. And so what I'm advocating for are leaders who are more consciously present about making sure that you're not just leading people to get to a result that you want, but that you're helping them to develop. And that's what I see different with the Institute, because in the beginning, when I came, Baba and Ia always say their philosophy is we seek no followers. An organization that seeks no followers. However, what happens inevitably, because they create this environment to help you thrive, they don't want you following them. They want you to follow the God in you, right? And the guidance that comes from within yourself. And because of that, I mean, you're so willing, that these people are not trying to control you. They're trying to help you open up and see the God and the greatness that's in you and the leader that's in you, as opposed to I'm the manager and I want you to do it my way. And it's a phenomenal shift, because I never understood why in my corporate environment, I get a lot of resistance. Like, if you're trying to make me a puppet, it's not going to work. I'm not the yes person. That is not me. However, I am, just like the Institute, I want the organizations and the people that I work with to get the best out of everybody there. And there's a way to do that. That brings everybody along and supports everybody in the process. And then there's a way to totally alienate people. And that's what you see today with leadership is, people that are, pushing everybody away, and then they wonder why you've got high turnover. Now,
I love. People ask me all the time, where did you get this? Where did you learn it from? I'm like, it's my brain. This is how I think. This is how I process. And, after going through this a couple of times, you guys start to see like, oh, it really is how she thinks. And I'm glad to see that you can see the influence that this has had. We do a lot of persuasive writing without persuading anyone to do anything besides what they already want to do, right? It's truly an invitation, but at the same time, like, just acknowledging some of these pieces. I'm so glad that I'm recording and that you can go grab that later.
Say yes, I do need the copy of this recording.
Yes, I will send it out. Someone else want to play with this advocacy? What are you advocating for this year?
I'll speak up.
2024. It's a big year.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I know I usually think of Oye as Cynthia. I too have another name. I'm Kristen, but I'm also Jimpalamo, which is from my Vajrayana Tibetan Buddhism practice. I don't usually put that out, in settings, but it feels like this might be a place I could own that dimension of who I am. I really identify strongly with your the word, let's see, advocacy. And I feel like I'm living a lot of this. I am birthing a sort of way of looking at individual development and how we could configure ourselves a little better socially, called Beism. And the focus is on what we all, hold in common as spiritual beings having a human experience, because it's, the time is nigh for the tribalism. And I haven't started writing. There's a lot of sort of content out there. I have a new handout that I'm using when I do the coaching system, but I don't have the framework, and I need the framework of the whole thing. And then I want to have a deck and a little book so that people can work the Beism for themselves, on a more micro level, or that people who are professional helpers can use it. So I do have a little graphic that I've made out. I made this little graphic that sort of shows the different areas of the Beism. And I use this when I work with people in like a reading. I work sort of my marketing funnel, or where I meet humans, is in the intuitive body, mind, spirit universe. I'm very engaged by the question of, how is this relevant to my tribe, and what action do I want my tribe to take? And that feels really empowering, because I am sort of a leader in my woo circles. And so now I can speak to that. I can say, hey, when you're doing readings with people, how about this idea of both holding their unique identities of our whatever we are, our bodies, our DNA, our whole tribal heritage, but also holding space for the fact that this is temporary. All this outer stuff is going to be gone in 15 minutes. And what is our real legacy? What are we really going to leave, at the end? And how will we experience the transition when we check out? So there are things, and I kind of do work with other intuitives, you know, is really my golden person, are other people like me who are just not quite where I am yet, you know, who are maybe where I was in 2014 or 2013. So I really like this. I feel it's engage, you know, helps me formulate a little better already. I can just like little, you know, like little chits falling, like things that are blocked or whatever, sort of like, oh, boop, that's, oh yeah, boop, boop.
Say, Kristen, can I ask you can I ask you to walk through the questions and I respond to the questions? What's the problem in terms of the audience and your Bism? Walk
Right,
through these
so
questions and explain a little bit, and because I think it'll help you walk through and unfold, unpackage.
right. What's the problem? You know, extreme divisionism and tribalism, you know, is on the rise internationally. That's the problem. And it's reducing the quality of life for everyone. Okay, why do I want to see this? Obviously, I would like to see a change toward people focusing on we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, because I'm completely confident that it will enhance everyone's quality of life. Just shifting that. What do I want to see instead? I want to see people to, you know, embrace this idea that we actually have an internal intelligence that will guide us toward higher levels of sustainability and cooperation, you know, if we give it half a chance. Ownership. What can I do personally to be the change you want to see? You know, so I'm currently, you know, I cultivate inclusion and diversity in my circles and my life. And I try to do my best to do a body, mind, spirit life. You know, I'm trying to live in balance with those things. And
you
my
can get
harmonious.
your Bism out there.
What's that?
What can you personally do is get your Bism out there.
Okay, get it out there. Yeah, well, I'm getting it out there more and more. So, right, writing is one of the ways to do it, and speaking. There'll be writing, there'll be speaking. What will it take to communicate your purpose? More writing, more speaking. How is this relevant to my tribe? Well, you know, I run with people who are mostly the helpers of other people. And sometimes we're not great at taking care of ourselves. That's one of the issues with us. And the Bism does focus on that to some extent. So it has both a personal application and a larger social application. I think, I don't know. I feel like, yeah, messaging, there's a lot of people coming. There's a lot of people coming to the helping world, but they're not exactly sure what they're supposed to be doing when they get here. They know they're supposed to be doing something. They know the old thing is over. So giving some structure and clarity to some of those people for part of what they might want to focus on, that would be useful. Community. What action do I want to take want your tribe to take? I'd like to see the metaphysical people be a little more socially justice responsible. I feel like sometimes the love and light world can be a little bit too esoteric in their ways of supporting the common good. And I'd just like for them to also be okay with looking at both the shadow and the light, because some aspects of the metaphysical community freak out, you know, when you bring up the fact of, you know, more, you know, over 50% of children in the United States are living below the poverty level. You know, they don't want to hear those words. Well, sorry, I have to say those words. Okay, how are you modeling what you want to see? You know, I have to reflect on that more, because it's like, you know, with my shoulder to the wheel, I can't see myself. And the question would be, you know, I guess recently, I've put more focus on letting go of some people and situations and activities that were not leading toward greater commitment to getting the Bism out. I do some other modalities that are great, but I'm not promoting those or leaning into those as the future. Thank
It's a big
you.
difference when you think about it versus when you actually like force yourself to sit down and be like, okay, what words do I want to say? Thank you, Oyabeme, for encouraging that. Yeah. Lots to think about. Isn't that great? I love it. I love listening to it. And then there's so much great work out there, but it's also really easy to get tried, tested, overwhelmed, have life happen to you. And so it's, at least in my opinion, I think it's just really good to bring this back into your heart space, especially as we're about to go into this crazy busy holiday season. Hanukkah's already going on, solstice, and Christmas, and Kwanzaa, and New Year, and I don't know what other, there's all sorts of stuff happening in these upcoming weeks. And a lot of it is to make us forget what we're really here to do. So let's not be distracted, but take all of this focus and love and dedication off into everything that we're doing for the rest of the month too. Anyone else want to play with this?
I'll go.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. Yeah, I love this. I'll just go through the list. So awareness, the problem that I'm addressing in my book and through my business is, I personally believe, it's more of a personal belief, that there's an identity crisis that's happening in the world where people are disconnected, away from their authentic values, their true values and their purpose. And my desire is, and the issues, the problems that surface from that or manifest from that a lot of times is like abuse, whether it's self-abuse or abuse to other people, war, violence, and suicide. What I'm advocating for is to create more peace, love, and joy in the world, and happiness. My desire is basically, yeah, that I want to see the change in the world where people are a lot more connected to who, feeling safe in community and living out their purpose. My vision, what do I want to see instead? So my vision is where I see generations supporting each other in their purpose, where people feel of service, are helping and supporting each other, are thriving in community, are celebrating, are also supporting each other through the struggles that they go through. And then ownership, what can I do personally to be the change that I want to see? For me, it's like continuing to work on my own self, on my own struggles, and heal and live out my purpose, and work through the blocks that are holding me back. That would be like through a whole lot of things. So I'm just going to be general in that. My challenge is what will it take to communicate my purpose? One is get my book done, get that out there. And then two is really scale my business to really have a consistent marketing plan that I actually like follow through with, and up my sales so that I can help more people to develop that skill and to really become more aware and align with their purpose and live that through. Acknowledgement, how is this relevant to my tribe? Because my tribe, so my tribe as in like my son, my family, my friends, my clients, a lot of times I know, well, yeah, the common thread is people just like want to be happy, but then are constantly feeling stuck or trapped in their voice, feeling stuck in like not knowing how to be happier, how to achieve big things. And then they wind up getting stuck and settle or distracted from their vision, and then feeling like down about it, or just like giving up. And I also see the joy and the confidence that exudes from them when they do follow through with their vision and are living more of a purpose-driven life. My community, what action do I want my tribe to take? To delve deeper, courageously see who they really are, and take risks, live out their vision, live out their dreams, live out their purpose, and like really just live a life that they are in love with. And then like more of a tangible action for me, what I offer is helping them to have a very clear dream board for the life that they want to live, and also the legacy that they want to build and leave behind. And then how I'm modeling what I want to see is I'm doing the work myself. So what I share with my clients, what I share with my husband, my son even, is like I'm doing the work. I'm working on myself, and I'm taking risks, and I'm living it out. And when I'm blocked, I get help. I seek out help, and then I work through them. Okay, that's it. I'm complete. It's a great question. I love it.
Yeah. I think that you have, especially the last question, that you have made that a huge focus, at least in the years that I've known you, that you really are dedicated to modeling what you want to see in others, to live from that purpose-driven place, to take time to explore their dreams, and to time to even step into it, whatever that is, and to look at it from many dimensions, not just from one point. So yeah, cool, Tiara. Thanks.
Oh, I like what you just said. I'm noting that.
Yeah. Not sure if there's a few other people. Hi, friends. I only get to see the first couple faces, so I just peeked through. Anyone else want to play with this? I see Oshunike and Adana and Eileen. You all have a lot to say and advocate for, so.
I'll go.
Okay. Hi, Adana.
Hi, Steph. Hi, everyone. What's the problem? The problem is that we have soldiers that have to do really hard things, and they don't have a lot of tools to work through what happens after they do the really hard things. And I think that yoga can help people have a steady base before going in to do hard things and after coming back. It can be a way maneuvering through different situations. I want to see this change because I've seen way too many people suffer with their own demons, with their own struggles, with their own post-traumatic stress, their own anxiety. And they just close themselves off from any feeling. And it makes me feel sad. And so what I'd like to see instead is for people soldiers, to step into their own power, like with each boot step, like be fully integrated as whole people, and aware of what they're doing and why they're doing it, and capable of taking, the hard right when it happens, when it comes up. What can I personally do to be the change that I want to see? I need to be my first patient. I need to be my first example, and um, you know, continue to collect my stories about what it is that I've experienced, what it is that I've been able to overcome, what it is, how it is that I maneuver through all these different ways of being so that I can continue on my journey, and share that. And what will it take to communicate my purpose? Um, what will it take to communicate my purpose? Lots of stages, lots of leader engagements, um, and lots of opportunities to just talk to people in a way that feels real. And how is this relevant to my tribe? It is my tribe. I'm a soldier. These are soldier issues, and I can't forget that. Like I can't undo who I've been and what I've done, and neither can they. And so this is just our collective experience. Um, what action do I want my tribe to take? I would love for them to um, breathe and be and not be afraid and not judge themselves so harshly. Um, and how am I modeling that? Every time I have to take a step forward and do progress, that is what I have to take those same steps myself. So um, resistance pops up every time we try to do something. So uh, that's just one of the ways that I model it, is like, okay, what can I do? You know, and so that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that for you, it's more the where some others are sitting in the like, how is it relevant for your tribe, or what action do you want your tribe to take? And I think for you, it stands more in the challenge area of what is it really going to take to communicate your purpose, because you're coming in from a very different mindset into a very established way of operating. Um, and so I think you're going to spend a lot more time in that ownership and challenge, where each person needs to own it, but then the entire organization needs to own it. And then what is it really going to take to create that purposeful change? So you've got quite a journey and have chosen a very, very big mission to accomplish. But it starts with writing those first stories and sharing your message and being in platforms and getting your degrees. And I mean, you're like running at this breakneck pace of getting it all done, of personally being that change so that you can step into challenging others and their beliefs. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Yeah, yeah, cool. All right, we have seen these questions. It's very clear. But the most crucial thing for all of us and everything that we're doing is being 100% you. Always. I feel like the only time that I see you get off point is when you stop being 100% you. And so I just want, as the main thing to remember, is to just be you. And truly, that's all I have to share today. So, I'm gonna stop the share so I can see all these faces. Whether you've been through this for your first time, or it's your third time seeing all these questions and content, or I don't know, sixth, seventh time. I'm not sure how many years I've been teaching the same thing now, maybe 8 years now. What did you most take away from today? What stuck out to you?
I like the going through those questions again, I think helped uh flushing out those questions kind of helped in my own mind organize how to tie in the institute into my chapter. And so I'm appreciative of this particular time, so that because I've been struggling with how to introduce it and have it tie in. So I think this session was particularly beneficial for me for that reason.
Perfect. Thank you, Oyebeme. Cynthia.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Cynthia is Oyebeme. It's the same person. I was just using both of her
Okay.
names.
Yeah, I have a question actually. Do you ever use your advocacy talking points to build up a speech?
Yep. Yeah, I love that model for, I mean, you can pick it for any direction, talking about it in general, talking about it for your chapter, for your book, for a stage talk. I think that advocacy is the root of change. I mean, unless anyone's going to speak up for it, what's going to happen? I think a big part of that is because of being a caregiver for so many years, where my grandma had 3 strokes when I was 18 and I was her caregiver for 11 years. So I was her voice. When she would go out or to doctor appointments, she'd get really stressed and all of her words would get mixed up. But if it was just the two of us hanging out at her house, I could like create a list. She's like, this wrist hurts. I injured it this day. I want these 3 items from the grocery store. And we'd, as long as she'd share it with me, then when we went out and she got overwhelmed, I got to be her voice in the world. But it was her song. It was me carrying out what she wanted. And so I was her advocate more than I like a medical caregiver. I was her advocate in the world, and grew up in huge amount of advocacy, working on a couple of different political fronts. Um, I was the kid that got C's and D's in high school because I was in like 6 to 11 clubs at any given times and off doing all the things that I believed in, running the after school program, teaching arts in inner cities and raising the money and doing the theater program for that and being in the like I was off doing it. I was already living life. I couldn't care less about the homework, right? Um, but then in college, I was a straight A student because I was doing the work for what I wanted to learn. It's the time and place and figuring it out. But I'm so grateful to be with a whole group of advocates, all advocating for betterment in the world.
Beautiful.
What else did you get? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for answering that question. Yeah, because I was like, when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is such a great structure, or like a home base to really guide you through like developing your speech or anything. For me personally, I'm thinking, because that's usually a struggle of like, what the heck am I going to, how am I going to structure what I'm talking about? So the other question I had, which I think is an insight, is because one, as you know, I tend to struggle with writing my book on when it comes to like when I'm writing and structuring my paragraphs or like trying to write my point. I get lost because I feel like I don't really have like a grounding like points to hit. So is this something that I could use to hit each story that I'm writing within my book?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I put it on Kindle this year. If you get the Stories That Change the World workbook, I'm not sure if you have that one. It goes through multiple different templates of like, here's a stage talk outline, here's a chapter outline, here's a book outline, here's a program outline. And there's like a whole sequence of pages in there that go through all of those different types of outlines. And the reality is that all of them are interchangeable. It's just whichever one calls you at any given time or feels appropriate for whatever you're doing. There's just suggestions of what to use each one for. So I'm doing some interviews this year that I haven't done gosh, in many years, where I'm going to sit down and do some video interviews with the authors, and going through that advocacy talking point model is one of the things that I've been looking at, focusing that around. Because if you're going to talk about your chapter or you're going to talk about your book, I'm pretty sure that you all have all the answers to that and can express your chapter, your book in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Another takeaway for me is just like I'm inspired to explore and play with the monthly content creation topics for the seasonal elements that you have here, of like what that could look for me as I organize my year and or the next, few years coming up.
Yeah, yours for sure. Where you have 4 to 5 months of writing, and to look at, why don't I focus on these 4 areas while I'm doing that writing? I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, really cool. Thank you.
You're
This is-
welcome. I know every year I'm like, do I really teach it again? And I'm like, yeah, I really teach it again every year. And I need to put myself through the paces as much as I need to offer it for others. So,
Well, I really appreciate being here tonight. Thank you, Cynthia, for inviting me, and Steph for showing up again another year of teaching the same content. I know that can be like, oh yeah. This feels like, okay, great. I'm reconnecting with the breadcrumb trail, because, when you're doing something that hasn't been done before, you don't really know where you're going or how you're going to get there. And, of course, there are, established structures like that you have and many other people have for getting content into some kind of framework. And, I've had a lot of challenges with just having my creativity being seen in a bigger pot. It's like I've kind of been okay with being creative in a small circle, but I need to feel comfortable. It's time for me to feel comfortable being creative in a bigger circle. And I've been fooling around with the website, and it's been stalled. I have the technical assistance, but it's like time for content. And I think this will really help me move forward with getting some content on the website that will feel authentic, that will come with the punch that I want. It's like, I just didn't want to have the typical, services, blah, blah, blah. I felt like, if you're going to spend the money and the time and the energy, put something in there. And also, I've been mostly working with people one-on-one, and I'd really like to move into some speaking. So I have to present myself in a way where somebody would possibly say, wow, she might be an interesting person to listen to, so there were these different, things that I've just been and I feel like the advocacy format will really help me get more texture. It'll give more, points, like hooks. There'll be a hook there for some people, that will help maybe drive some activity next year. So that's good. And I have to see, how you work and all that, and see if I can do more with you, and I'm definitely gonna get the template thing, because I have a lot of stuff that's just been waiting. It's sort of like this dam of stuff has been building up, but it didn't know how to get through or around. Yeah. That stories that change the world. Okay. Yeah. So I need that.
well, and what you're describing is actually, it's funny. So Vivian is a woman that the minute that I announced I was offering publishing, like, besides the 1 or 2 people who dragged me into doing it for them, but was actually like, okay, I'm stepping into this, I'm going to do this. This lady, Vivian, signed up, and she went through multiple rounds with me. And we were meeting to go over her layout earlier this week. And she's like, Steph, isn't your copywriting class, are you still doing your December thing? And I'm like, yes. Okay, guys. Like, I've just been so caught up with the authors and giving people all these extensions and deadlines that I'm behind and didn't do any marketing for it. But what I'm hearing in you, and what I'm hearing for everyone else, is that, so typically I do a 10-week copywriting class, starting in January. So January, February, and just a couple weeks into March that ends the beginning of the year. That's actually this other book called Books That Sell You. And
Yes.
this book has the templates
I'm so
for
sorry.
the
I can't believe someone is calling me right now.
Oh no,
Sorry.
it's okay. This is the one that has the home page, the about page, the sales page. Like this is the templates for website writing to build the website. The book is itself, but how are you going to help that book sell you? And so those might help as well. So yeah, I will think about it and figure it out before next Friday if I'm going to actually offer that copywriting class again. And see what that would look like. But I'm happy to have a conversation otherwise about what support you're looking for.
Awesome.
Any other big takeaways, ahas, or?
For me, it's just sort of helped because I was just because I was so focused on the book, I didn't really, I kept saying, oh no, it's all right, I'll look at all that other stuff later. And as I was writing the book and as I was putting together the book summary and thinking about the author and things like that, the advocacy stuff started to come out naturally. But this is sort of just seeing the questions again has helped to just solidify what that was all about. And like the other people have said as well, like I'll be able to now put that into the website and into the other content as well that I do. Because again, I was thinking, well, how am I going to put this together and how's it going to sound really good? And yeah, so it was just really good timing, because for me it's now the shift into the creative gears of, okay, well, how do I actually market this and how do I put it together? So yeah.
How do you tell the world that you wrote a book? Yeah.
That's it. It's like, oh my God. Thanks, Steph.
Yeah, for sure. I love that each of you have gotten something completely different from one another, but that you've all found a recommitment to what you initially came to me about. Right? Like Oyabeme and I met, and she's like, I have a message about the Institute the world needs to hear. And now she's on her second book and tying all of that together again, right? Like, and has brought it right back. Tiare and I met doing videos. So I offered, I think it was a 10-day video challenge. And each day I offered a question, kind of like the ones that we went through as a prompt. Except for you weren't allowed to answer the question, you had to tell a story that answered the question. And here she is being like, can I use this outline for a stage talk? I mean, it's just so beautiful of wherever we start, we continue. Oshunake always says beginning with the end in mind, right? It's this mantra, but it's just so true that that's often how the world works. And so as we started at the beginning and we are now at the end, I really am just grateful that you are all willing to dedicate some time and energy to creating content, to putting your messages out in the world and finding the ways that support you and support the people who are receiving that message to invite into them what you have to share. So really, that's all I have to say. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Any other parting thoughts as before we say farewell?
I'd just like to thank everyone for participating and sharing because, I learned from everyone here.
Indeed. And then we're same time next week, we're doing something completely different where this is one that I have taught over and over and over and over and over, because it's just how my brain thinks. The next session is something that is completely new. And some of my authors have heard it, but it serves to hear it again. It's talking about search engine optimization. So, how do the words that you choose for your website, the words that you choose for your titles, your subtitles, your videos, how do all of these work together in social media, in Amazon, and Google, in all of the everything? And there is so much that I know, and I've only ever shared it when people ask. And so next week is my goal to remedy that and share, because I've been studying it nonstop since I stepped into business in the first place. So thank you all, and I hope to see you next week too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. And we'll take care. Take care,
you.
and we'll be in touch soon. Bye.